Here's your second though. A more excellent way, love. A more excellent way, love. As you know, the Corinthian church jockeyed back and forth asking Paul about which gifts were the greatest, who had the greatest gifts, who was the most spiritual. And we assume behind the scenes they were jockeying for power and political position within the church, all very carnal. And it led Paul to write the most beautiful part of the Bible I think that's ever been written. It's almost like scriptural candy, if you think of it that way. Paul wrote about a more excellent way, and I want to. Oh, the microphone. Thank you. And I want to definitely get this on tape. A more excellent way, and that more excellent way starts in 1 Corinthians 12, what Paul wrote about. Now, Paul is addressing the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 12, verse 31. And we'll stay in this one section of the Bible. But earnestly desire the best gifts. So he's all for the best gifts. And he says, edifying each other later on is a really good gift, building each other up. But yet I want to show you, Paul says, a more excellent way. A more excellent way. 13:1. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal, just noise. Though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. Verse 3. Though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Now, I want to ask the question, why did God say that? I mean, why does it profit nothing? I want to just talk about that for a few minutes this afternoon. Why it profits nothing? Well, let's go to verse 1. We talked about tongues of angels and men. It's nothing but sounding brass, nothing but noise. What he is saying is, if you're communicating, but your base purpose is not love, it's nothing but noise. Because true love is concern for the person. But remember, God's overall goal on earth is to build godly character in the hearts of men. So if what we do does not build godly character in our hearts, it's not good for us. So if you're communicating, even if you're using lovely words, you're a great wordsmith, you're clever, persuasive, and you can speak all kinds of foreign languages, and apparently we think from the way it's set up, there may be a heavenly language that angels spoke and that Paul could speak in prayer to God, and he went to heaven and he understood them. Even if you had that gift, if it's not done out of love, it is nothing but noise. That's what he's saying. Let me give you some examples of, let's say, great words spoken but not out of love. I was just watching one of those World War II documentaries, and when Germany started losing the war, at first Goebbels lied to the German people. Really some great movies and newsreels, and he was a great speech maker, Dr. Goebbels. He gave them deceptive propaganda so they would support evil. And obviously he didn't do it out of love, because if you love people, you don't lie to them. And eventually the German people actually started to fight back, and that's another brutal story, and the generals tried to kill Hitler 14 times. But a lot of his propaganda is beautiful, but it was for an evil purpose. Let's take an evil shyster, and he's doing a business deal with someone, and he speaks language beautifully, and he's persuasive. But what is his goal? To cheat and defraud. That's bad for his character, no less the person he defrauds. But he can speak, and maybe he's bilingual. He can talk to the client in Spanish, switch over to English, go back to Spanish. If you're speaking to someone that's bilingual, it's probably advantageous. He's got the gift of tongues, but he's using it in an evil way. it's perverting that person's heart. Now, charity is always a good thing, and yes, but let me give you an example. It's a good thing, but words matter. When Ananias came to the church in the book of Acts, they had everything in common, and some people gave everything like Barnabas they had so the church could spend some time all together and learn from the apostles. And it was kind of a big love fest for a while. Well, Ananias and his wife came to the church with a large chunk of money, and they said, we sold everything we had and we gave it to the church. Now that's charity, right? But you realize they were lying. And it was their right to do anything they wanted with their money, as Peter said to them. But they kept back a big chunk of it, so they'd still be, deep in money, but they would appear to the people. They would appear to the people to be so wonderful. Their goal in giving all that money to the church was not a love. It was out of a desire to become a big wheel in the church. Their credibility would go up. We gave everything. They probably wanted to be appointed apostles like Barnabas. I mean, something of that nature. And actually it was perverting their character. And as Peter said, you didn't just lie to us, you lied to God by lying to the Holy Spirit. And God doesn't like that. Words do matter if they're not done out of love. Let's read verse 2 again, 13:2. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and that means both inspired preaching as well as predicting the future, Bible knowledge, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains but have not love, I am nothing. Now let's look at that for a second. And we're going to talk about this more in the Bible study, and I think it'll add more to what we're saying when we go through 1 Corinthians 8. Anyway, we'll get to that in a few minutes, but what's the purpose of the knowledge? And what's the purpose of the faith? If their knowledge was being used to show off, you can imagine some of the Corinthians who God gave them spiritual knowledge, just like he gave to us. Their mind was open to see things that the average person couldn't see. And especially in a pagan world like Corinth, they probably understood a lot of things that the average person didn't. Apparently, a lot of them got puffed up. You can see them like puffing themselves up. They got puffed up. The knowledge didn't do their heart any good, didn't do them any good spiritually. And in a way, it didn't even do the other Corinthians any good because of the way in which they were using it. As I say, we'll see that in chapter 8 in a few minutes. It didn't build people up. They were just showing off their knowledge and using it as a weapon. And, it was more negative. And if you use your knowledge in a negative way, or you get puffed up, instead of using knowledge to grow spiritually, use knowledge to get more vain and puffed up, as we mentioned last week, then it's bad for your heart. It's not good for you. It's not good for any of us. Verse 3, 1 Corinthians 3:3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, though I give my body to be burned. You remember those monks that burned themselves in Vietnam to support an anti-government wing of, I remember seeing that in Vietnam. And what I think they did in Vietnam, and the American press just ate it up like candy. They played the American press for idiots, my opinion. The monks got some young monks who were young, innocent, stupid. They drugged them up on some drugs and had a bunch of their kind of music playing, and they doused them with gasoline, and the reporters surrounded them, and then they lit a fire and gruesome stuff. They're burning up because they don't like the government. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really think that did those monks any good. They were doing that as part of a political struggle. And they influenced the American press, which it did. The American press is easy to influence in the wrong way. As you know what I think of the American press there, they play much of the role of the false prophet. Anyway, give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. In other words, in this world, here's the advice business people and celebrities are given. Find some charitable cause, give money to it, and have it publicized. And that's what PR does. And this is real PR. They say, do something charitable and then publicize it. We'll show you with a big check, and we'll put it in the newspaper, giving money to this cause, And it's actually good for business. And it's good for their reputation. And they may even have to give all that much proportionate to what they have, but it's good PR. And I'm not saying that's all bad, but can you see that's more about puffing yourself up and getting people to think good of you so they'll buy more of your stuff than it is actually love. But I'm not saying PR is bad. I'm saying that's what they do. It's considered a main tactic. You're important. You need to support some kind of charity. Do something. We'll publicize it. Put it on the TV news. Or if you are suicide, I call it false martyr, that's really out of hate, not love. For instance, take the two people in San Bernardino that killed 14, and I believe the latest count now is they injured 22. They're now counting the policeman they shot as injured. I believe they're counting the policeman, 22. So is that 38 people that they attempted to kill, but I think a good number will survive in the hospital. By the way, when they use bullets, they call them impact bullets that have more impact than just the territory the bullet hits. It has a shock wave, so it can maybe stop an organ nearby to kill you. So it's like when the Saez brothers put little nails and BBs in their bombs so that it could rip more flesh apart, and they blew off people's legs. That is evil, terrorism. But they're martyring themselves. Well, isn't that good? They're dying for God, or Allah, their version of God. No, it's not good. Can you see that they're doing that out of hate? And I believe the guy in San Bernardino, he picked his first target. I believe he was going to do it several times before he probably died in a police shootout or a bomb, because he didn't like the people there. Because one guy was arguing that Islam was not a religion of peace. And he had to know deep in the subconscious, that's right. I'm building bombs in my garage, and I'm arming to kill people, and I'm arguing with this guy that Islam is not is a religion of peace. To think how about in his deep psyche. He must have hated that guy to kill him first. You realize that this kind of martyrdom that's in the world, that's not love. That's hatred. And God does not need us to murder people to bring about his kingdom. When God is ready to do it, he'll do it. When God's ready to smash armies and all that, he'll do it. And they're indiscriminately killing people. They don't care, children, babies. Matter of fact, there's one group, one of their main targets is elementary school kids. I'm not making this up, Girl Scout buses. That's how hateful some of this martyrdom is. And they expect to die in a hail of bullets or bomb vest, kill other people. That is obviously darkening their hearts. And God will have a lot of cleaning up of those people to do when they are taught the truth. The devil must love that kind of thing, right? Blow yourself up and kill a bunch of people because you hate them and their way of life, and we'll force them out of, this kind of terror. We'll terrorize them so much they'll have to convert and then live under fear of the mullahs and their version of, anyway, you know the ideas that are out there. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 to 7. This is so beautiful. And this means godly love, agape. Love suffers long and is kind. He's personifying love. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up. Love does not behave rudely, does not seek its own. Love is not provoked, thinks no evil. Love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. That is so positive. When you read it, that is so positive. That's what God wants to build in our hearts. And I know it's a battle, because human nature is obviously selfish. Every little baby is born selfish. One of the first words they learn is no. And they're proud to get it out there, 2 years old. No. And the Corinthians were competing for things that are really limited and temporal, unlike love. Because love is going to go in our hearts, go beyond into the kingdom, into the future forever. It'll stay with us forever. Things like knowledge and faith, they're temporal. We read verse 8, and Paul shows you how temporal they are. Love never fails, but whether there be prophecies, they will fail. Some prophecies fail because the people repent or some condition changes, and God says, well, they repented, the prophecy against them fails. Some will fail. Whether there be tongues, they will cease. Someday, I don't know when, we can argue about when, and there's some debate about when God's going to enforce it, but someday there'll be one pure language, and whatever it is, I can speak all these languages, it won't matter anymore. Everybody will speak one language, so you can speak 5 or 6, won't matter anymore. They will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. When it says vanish away, I think one way to look at it is, in the world tomorrow, if you want to know what the prophet Micah meant by subject, he'll be there in the kingdom. You can maybe access his records or one of his sermons, or maybe you'll get to meet him and ask him. Won't be any question about it. We'll have all the ancient history knowledge that God has recorded. It'll be all available, probably be electronic records or whatever, be available. You want to know about the inner workings of the cells of some unique animal nobody knows about? Well, God's got a record. This is how I made it. In other words, all knowledge will be available. And we're not going to turn there, but Isaiah 11:9 says, the knowledge of God will be like water on the bottom of the ocean. In other words, everybody will be inundated with knowledge of God. So the fact that you know more about God than they do, it'll be irrelevant since everybody will have that knowledge. So someday, knowledge will be, irrelevant in the sense that I mean it. You won't have any more knowledge than anybody else. And so knowledge, faith won't be necessary when God is right there with us. So all those things, like I've got more faith, I've got more knowledge, I've got more skills with understanding God, it won't matter. Those things are temporal. The only thing that matters and will last is love. So in closing, here's what I recommend we do. Every so often when we're praying, ask God to clean up our hearts. Ask God to give us better motives. Ask God to help us not get puffed up because we know something the average Joe doesn't know. He gets the credit for all that, and he gets the credit for our salvation. You don't earn your salvation. And I mean this respectfully, but the Jews have this thing, I call it counterbalance. At the end of certain years, they say, well, I've got so many bad things over here, I'll counterbalance with some good things over here. That's really not the way you should look at it. You should try to be as godly as you can in all areas of life, and don't try to counterbalance some bad things you're doing by being really picky in this area and picky in that area, if you understand what I mean. God gets the credit for everything. And so try to ask God to clean up our motives. Ask God to give us more love, to have us show off less. And whatever skills and talents we have, ask God to help us use them out of love and not to prove that we're more righteous than so-and-so, and not to get all the selfish motives out of our heart, because our heart is the most important thing.